yes, right.
The Pope.
Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Let's call to order. This is going to be City of Port Richey Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting for Wednesday, August 24th. At this time, I'd like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chairman Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Member Tom Kinsella. Let the record show that Member Tom Kinsella is absent from tonight's meeting. Member Todd McClary. Let the record show that Member Todd McClary is absent from tonight's meeting. Member Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Member Bill Colombo.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager John Dute. Let the record show that City Manager John Dute is absent from tonight's meeting.
Looking for a motion to approve board minutes.
Motion to approve board minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nobody signed up, but is there any commentary from the general public? Show of hands. Seeing no hands, we'll move on to commentary from city management, which will be our finance director. Any commentary?
I have no comment.
Thank you, Ms. Gosselin. We're going to move on to just board business at this time. The first item up for business is discussion to schedule and advertise upcoming quarterly CRA meeting dates. I think that was one of the requirements that we had
Very good, Mayor.
for our audit. So we certainly want to be on top of that, and I was going to have Ms. Gosselin open up on some recommendations.
Yes, so the CRA board is mandated to publish and conduct quarterly CRA board meetings. These meetings will be held immediately following any city council meetings that are scheduled for the same date. Staff recommends that the following dates be adopted for quarterly CRA board meetings to be held in FY 22-23. December 13th, 2022, March 14th, 2023, June 13th, 2023, and September 12th, 2023. So we're just looking for a motion to approve those dates and advertise those for the CRA meeting.
And for point of clarification, we can have a lot more meetings than that if we want to. Those are the four.
Correct, that's just the minimum, yep.
That's the minimum that we're required to set now.
Mm-hmm.
And advertise and keep on our website, right? That's what she's got. Pursuant to the policy and procedures management program.
All right, looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the scheduled CRE meetings, quarterly meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I keep forgetting I'm muted.
You
All
can't
right.
be top dog
No,
all the time.
I'm just keep making the motion.
Yeah, like that, let somebody else second
So next item up for board business is going to be the CRA draft budget presentation, and our budget analyst over there is going to put it together for us, Ms. Gosselin.
Don't give her another title.
She's an analyst too. She can analyze all
You're
these
gonna have to
things.
pay her more
I was
because
gonna say, bend the budget again, pay her more money.
All right.
Okay, so this is our proposed operating budget for the Community Redevelopment Fund for fiscal year 2022 to 2023.
Sorry.
It's okay.
1 minute.
Okay. So we're looking at FY21 audited fund balance of about 1.466 million. An estimated carry forward from our current year, FY22, of $550,000. And FY23 would bring us to a beginning fund balance of $2,016,000. So this just shows how we calculate the amount that the city pays into the TIF. So our current budget year, 2022, the final taxable value was $278 million. And at the time, we were using a base year of 02, so that's $172 million. And that gives us a change of $106 million. You times that by the tax rate, and you get $649,000 that we contributed into the CRA.
And before we go to the next slide,
Yeah.
if I may, I remember in the audit, one of the things the auditor touched on.
Yes, so I was going to show we need to use the base year of 2001. Is that where you? Yeah.
The county actually miscalculated.
Right. We both used the wrong base year. Yep.
But it was based on the wrong year. So-
Correct. Yep. So they've been updated as well. They're now going to use the 2001 base year.
So now we're comporting or complying with the recommendations from CRA.
From this-
Using the right year.
Right, from the state audit, yep. Yeah, so our taxable value at the beginning of this year, of 2023, it actually increased 13%, so it went up to that $314 million. And then we are looking to remove Harbor Isles and San Pebble, and that brings the value down to $249 million. And then using that '01 base year is $148 million versus the 172. So the change is now $100 million, and then you times that by your tax rate, and you get $601,000 that were to contribute into the CRA.
Is that reduction in taxable value because of the homestead?
No, so that reduction is from removing Harbor Isles and San Pebble. Originally, it was 314. It went up 13%.
Is that after? But these are after homestead exemptions already taken.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yep. No problem. Yep. Okay, so this is just an overview of the budgeted CRA revenues. So the difference, we're down about $93,000 compared to what we contributed last year.
I would jump in here and question the wisdom of budgeting $667,000 for next year. Does any of us have a realistic expectation that's gonna get into our pocket?
I know Pam is actively working on that Restore Act grant.
I know working on the Restore Act, but as I recall, Restore Act grants, in the best situations, a refundable grant, which means whatever you're spending it on has got to be completed and approved before.
Right, reimbursable.
Are we going to get that back in the upcoming fiscal year, that we're going to budget it as a revenue?
Well, we budgeted on the expense side, 667, and we budgeted on the revenue side, 667, so it cancels each other out. Because ideally,
You budgeted an expense based on the dubious, by my opinion, a dubious revenue.
right. I mean, ideally, we would receive it in the same fiscal year. If we don't, it's a cash flow problem, but
Yeah, the Restore Act's been going on since, 2015, Jim, we haven't seen any money out of it yet, so I don't,
Hold your breath for it.
I just have a hard time budgeting that $667,000 in this year. Best case scenario, there's no way they approve that change. We complete all the work and they sign off on it and then they refund it all in the upcoming fiscal year. To me, that's.
But you still have to show it as a cash flow. It's still.
Well, you don't have to show it as a cash flow. Why do you have to show it as a cash flow? No, just because we've applied for it, we have no rational basis.
But it's a reimbursement grant, so you can't spend that money unless you're gonna do
You're
it.
spending it on the next page under expenditures.
Because that money probably shouldn't be spent if we're gonna earmark it for
I mean,
reimbursement.
you've got we're not at this point yet, but yeah, when you get into expenses, you're budgeting it as an expense.
because we have to spend it up front.
It's got to zero out, one way or the other.
So then that way, we may just not get reimbursed for it, if we're gonna put it in that way.
Well, yeah, but
I wouldn't show it as revenue, I think that's correct, I don't think there's any hope that we're gonna be reimbursed for anything based on what we've seen so far in the last 7 years of going around and around with the county over it.
So we could just show it on the expense side, and then if you prefer.
I would show it as a revenue
We get it.
until they,
I wouldn't say until we get it, until we've got some reasonable basis to expect we're gonna get it in a given year. I'm not saying we're not gonna get it, I just highly doubt we're gonna get it in FY 22-23. That's all I'm saying.
so no, and I agree that it should just show then as an expenditure, not a revenue at this point.
Okay, I can remove it from the revenues. And it'll just affect the expense.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rachel, I could be wrong in this, but I believe what we've learned, and I believe it's also in the policy and procedures manual, that with regard to the CRA, we have it left over from the previous year and we don't spend it. We have to earmark everything.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, every penny we have now, in the previous years, we just let it float around in there.
Right.
But now you have to, what's left over, you must earmark specifically as an expenditure.
Correct.
But we've done that, I think, in the last year or two.
Well, I don't know if we've done it before this, but every penny she's accounting for right now and then, and I
Right.
just kind of saying she needs to account for every dollar, how we're gonna spend it. And gonna be spent, we think over the course of years, we need to put that on the record, this could be spent over the course of years, so that's probably why you're trying to put expenses in there.
Yeah.
You understand, I mean, we have to earmark it somehow. You understand what I mean? Right now, it's looking like we're gonna pay that in, this year. But, if not, you gotta earmark it for something else.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
If that's where I'm going, yeah.
Yeah.
If you agree with Mr. Colombo here, and that's an unreasonable expenditure, then you're gonna need to earmark it for something else.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like he just wants it on the expense side. So I would just need to reduce another expense to make up for it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want to reduce it on the revenue side. You just want to show it on the expenditure. Yeah.
It's not a lot. I mean, I wish the heck we were gonna get that money.
Yeah.
I have no reasonable expectation we will.
Yeah.
Ain't that
It's
much
just
money to-
typically when you budget for a grant, you budget the expense and you budget the revenue that you anticipate to receive. Whether you actually receive that in that fiscal year or not, you don't know. You don't always 100% know, but you're anticipating on receiving that. So that's why we typically would budget it on the expense side and on the revenue side. Okay. So the major budget changes for the CRA is that we removed police, fire, dispatch, and council salaries, and that was per the state audit. So that totaled around $231,000. That was budgeted from FY22 that we removed. We reviewed other department positions and reduced their percent allocations as necessary, and we allocated more funds for that Cody River Landing project. And I did want to point out, too, that the FRS rates did go up effective July 1 of this year, 1% for regular employees and 2% for dispatch, police, and fire. And then our health insurance also went up 10%, and that's due to claims. So this is a summary of our budgeted expenses. You'll notice a slight difference in the administrative, and that's because the grant coordinator, we originally had her funded, I want to say 80% out of the CRA fund, and we transferred some of those salaries because she's been working on a utility grant for utilities, so we transferred some of those salaries to the utility department and some more to the general fund. Yeah, so she was 20% general fund, 80% CRA. She's now 40% general fund, 20% CRA, 35% utility fund, and 5% stormwater, based on the grants that she's working on for that fiscal year.
So the total amount for the administration of our CRA?
Reduced.
77,665?
Correct, yep.
Okay, which is, what does that come out to be? Somewhere between 10 and 15% of our revenue coming in
Of our revenue?
on an annual basis.
Of the CRA revenue?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that figure off the top of my head, but,
That's even lower.
Right, it's about-
Yeah.
We put in about 700,000 or 800,000, right? And then
Yeah.
They match it, so that's 5%.
Yeah, because 5% to administer that fund is actually a really good number.
yeah, I mean, we really look at every line, every salary line, and we try to budget it accordingly.
You've analyzed it.
Yeah.
Putting it on the record.
Yeah.
So we did it, we complied with it.
Yep.
Because I know they talked to me how much time.
No, I know that, but one of the flags that the auditor was talking about is when the administration of the fund is 20 or 25% of the fund, there's a big problem versus.
Oh, right, yeah,
having the
yeah,
administration at 5% is
yeah, it's much lower. Yep. So same thing with the building department. The revenue manager was funded 80-20, 80% out of the CRA, and we adjusted that. Oh, sorry, she was 50% out of the CRA. We adjusted that down to 20% out of the CRA and 80% to the general fund. Okay. And then. Oh, code enforcement. Yes. So that was not originally budgeted at all to the CRA, but we do feel that that person does some work within the CRA, so we added a percentage there. I believe it's 20%. And then we increased the amount that we're allocating to that Cody River Landing project, about a little over $1 million. The community grant fund, so that's what building department oversees when somebody wants to replace windows or roofs and things like that. They get $1,000 towards that. Typically, we have about 10 disbursements towards that annually, so that would equate to about $10,000. So that's why we reduced that amount to 25, because we were never coming close to $50,000. Other grants, that was the FIRDAP, so that's why that went down. That grant program's over. Demos, we reduced that a little bit, and I spoke with our building manager, and she thinks that that's a good amount, $100,000 for demos. Our cost allocations, we removed council and dispatch expenses there, so that's why that's reduced. So our total is 3.8 million. Oh, and that's it. So yeah, so we've budgeted fund balance as well as revenues anticipated for that year. So we budgeted everything towards all these projects and things.
That's good, because we don't have to allocate that. You can always change your mind or something, but don't fully allocate.
So just to summarize, essentially with carryover and then what we in the county are paying into the CRA, we got like 3.8, well, I'm looking at expenditures right now, but we got like $3.8 million combined.
To spend, yep.
And out of that $3.8 million, we got some administrative, finance, legal, IT, building, code enforcement, human resources, salaries. We got community grants in the amount of $25,000. We got other grants, $667,000. Not sure what that is.
The restore.
Okay, restore. Other grants? Oh yeah. Okay, so that's where
That's the flood, that's the wash.
Budging it out, the wash. So nothing there actually happening. Demolition, 100,000. Cost allocations another 18,000. Contingency 500,000. So out of $3,800,000. We're basically spending $2.25 million on the Cody River landing. Our entire CRA budget is doing absolutely nothing of any substance, but we're gonna put $2 million in the Cody River landing, which in my opinion, and this is my opinion, is not any more blighted than Sand Pebble or Hard Isles. I don't consider that district blighted. I look at the east side of the city, I look at Highway 19, I look at Ridge Road, I see blight. I drive down the waterfront district, or the Cody River Landing, whatever you wanna call it, I don't see blight. I see an area we'd like to fix up. I don't see it as blight. Yet we're gonna drop a couple $1 million on that. I am 100% against this budget. That's as simple as I can put it.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about is I had proposed taking a sum of money somewhere in the couple $100,000 range, which would be $50,000, broke the city up into quadrants, 4 corners, and having just $50,000 for little improvements that are blighted areas, whether it be lighting, just cleaning up some of those just different areas, and then having some that money not for us just to figure out the specific projects, but for some discretionary money for the city manager to make some improvements, whether it's signage or cleaning up or whatever. And I don't think the rest of the council was with me on that, because I had brought that up.
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure I'm all on the idea of putting it into quadrants. I'm saying, but put it into actual blighted areas of the city. Again, let me use Newport Richey for an example. Just like we have a waterfront overlay district, they have a highway overlay district. We could form a highway overlay
What's
district.
a highway overlay district?
It encompasses 19.
Oh.
Okay. And it's the purpose of that is to make their section of Highway 19 look better. We could have there's some good looking businesses on Highway 19, the newer businesses we have out there. There's some really lousy looking ones on Highway 19. I personally have no problem with grant money going to businesses, helping small business owners, small properties, fixer properties, even potentially the city buying some properties. I don't know. Ridge Road is the same way. It's a mishmash of good-looking buildings and not so good-looking buildings.
Yeah, but
A lot of rundown houses and areas on the east side.
I agree with you 100%, but how's that different than the waterfront overlay district? You still have some
Well, the waterfront overlay district, I don't see as blighted. That's my personal opinion. But, I mean, maybe you do. I don't.
The properties on 19 aren't necessarily blighted either. The $1 million properties up and down there too.
Yeah,
So
they look like hell. Yeah, I'm just saying. No, but I mean, blight, there's a lot of different parts of blight. Visual appearance is one of them.
Sure.
The 90% of the people in Pasco County's opinion of the city of Port Richey is a little piece of Highway 19A drives through, and how good that is reflects on the city.
Sure.
I'm just saying, there's visual blight, there's all different kinds of blight. I don't see us spending really in this budget out of some token grant monies, anything on actual blight.
I humbly disagree. The
I
lighting
do.
down there is terrible. The walking surface is terrible. The safety for the pedestrians that do walk around down there, both during the day and the night, are not good. Nick's Park is not good.
The roads are a mess.
The roads are a mess. So, we have to start someplace. This project has been going on for over 20 years, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done, and it's not getting any better. The roads are terrible. We're not giving it to the businesses. I'm not giving it to
you are.
Guild. Well, how about
They're the ones that are benefiting. Who's benefiting? How am I benefiting?
the people that are going down there are benefiting by not
And
falling.
90% of them are not, residents of the city.
Yeah, but it's no different than people drive.
Suing us.
It doesn't make a difference, though. I mean,
And if I
We
could,
have a difference of opinion.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
agree.
saying, this is my basic opinion.
no, and what I agree with you, Mr. Colombo, is that you're right. We could clean up 19. It'd be a lot nicer when people drive through. You could clean up the mediums, put lights, put signs, the nice signs that they put up, all that kind of stuff we could do. But, and I think it should be done in other areas other than the waterfront overlay district. I also agree with that. But I wouldn't look at that area and say it's not blighted, because you don't have basic sidewalks, lighting, just basic safety, the things that you would have where you have high pedestrian traffic, which is where our pedestrian traffic is. It's really nowhere else in the city. Now, in terms of just beautifying 19, I agree that needs to be done as well. And you're right, it looks terrible. Ridge Road, we could clean the medians. You could put signs up. You could put, a little bit better lighting. You could put a program to clean up some of the beat up business fronts, as far as I'm concerned. I don't have a problem with that.
We actually had one at one time. If they upgraded their fascia, if they painted, I think we had a grant at one time that would, help them replace one of those, I'm sorry, Veronica's not here, but, really lousy old signs with new bright signs that look good that comport to our city code.
No, and I would agree that any of those projects would be really nice to have. And I would agree if that were brought to us, that's something that I would vote for to put it in the budget. Any of those projects, whether it be 19, Ridge Road, front of the businesses along those, the medians.
Again, that's what we're gonna have to do when we get into our CRA and start drilling down a little bit into this. I just right now, basically everything is budgeted to go into the waterfront overlay district.
No,
$2 million.
Well,
What's our city budget, leaving out the CRA?
The general fund? The general fund, 6 million?
6 minutes, okay. So there's 1/3 of our annual fund, we're budgeting to go into one project down there.
Sure. But it's also 20 years overdue, so I mean,
Yeah, I don't agree that the overlay district was ever promised by the city to do anything other than build a parking garage, which they never did.
which we didn't do, so.
Which we didn't do.
Right.
The waterfront overlay district was simply that. It was a zoning overlay district on top of that area to basically, the whole point of the WOD was to make the property owners come in compliance with code and do further construction in compliance with more stringent regulations. Okay? It was never a promise that the city was gonna fund them of anything.
No, but
So I'm just saying.
but a business owner isn't gonna wanna put all their money into something that,
A business owner can put in a sidewalk if they want to. They no longer get that.
yeah, but we wouldn't require that.
It's gotta be continuous, it's gotta be cohesive. And it's not, and Guild Dogs can put in this, and Pirate Bar can put in that, it's not cohesive. It's not, we gotta start someplace. This has been going on the books for 20 years, we gotta start someplace. This is not gonna be another 20-year project. According to Ayers, this was gonna be we're 6 months into this, so the construction is gonna be what, 9 months, they said, is that correct?
I would say in the next year and a half, it'll
So
go.
this is gonna be done, and then we are going to be able to do other projects. This is not a forever project.
Well,
This
no,
should not be a forever project. This should be a do it, get it done, move on to the next project.
And if I can just weigh in just from the very basic, I agree that there's other need around the city, but I
I
also,
agree that with that too.
but I don't think that looking at the Cody River Landing or Waterfront Overlay District, look at that and say there's no need there. I think there's a need there as well. But it doesn't matter what we fix up. If we're gonna, as a group, fix it up, I want to do it right so it lasts a long time and make it look nice. Whether it's going to be 19 Ridge, medians, grant money for business fronts, whatever we do, I just want to make sure that we do it so it's going to be long lasting and have a long lasting impact on our community, regardless of what area it is. But I do agree that the money should be spent and spread out a little bit more amongst the city, and I think that's one of your issues, and I do agree with that. And I'm open to saying, well, let's look at other projects, including, all the ones that we've just talked about. And, I think that city management should probably take a look at those different needs and make some proposals for us and bring them to us.
I think that's where you need another CIP. We need to look at the city as a whole and say, what is our goal for the next 5 years, or 6 years, or 10 years? And we need to put that.
Yes, where do we want to put our resources? Absolutely, and I think that's one of the functions of city management is to bring us some different options, so we can look at it and decide what direction we want to go. And I think that needs to be done too, coming up in the next, budget year.
We've seen how long this has taken to get this going.
Sure.
It's taken forever. I mean, to start from square one on whether it be 19 or Ridge Road or the storefronts, you're talking another 3 years down the road before you get anything going, right?
But I agree with this budget, but I would also agree if down the road that we want to expand these other areas, and I think that needs to be done.
The other areas absolutely need to be addressed as well, 100%.
So I'm okay with the way this is budgeted, but I think it should be spread out in the future and certainly focus other areas of the city. And I think the 19 corridor and Ridge Road would be the next areas that we would want to look at.
Now, 19 is a state road. Didn't they, the median that was taken, they fixed, the state fixed that, correct? Or did we do that?
There's a grant.
They had a
Was it grant that we
beautification,
did or they did?
they had a beautification project statewide.
Okay.
It was a combination of things.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I could remember that,
Yeah,
okay,
it was-
okay.
But I
But not the
noticed,
storefronts,
Sure.
No,
that's
that's
different.
city
Yes,
property, that's,
yes,
that's
yes,
not,
okay.
it's not our
Yes.
frontage.
Right.
but I've seen other areas too where they took that and then they put some of their own money, like you're talking about, like CRA money, and there's beautiful palm tree and it's just perfectly manicured and just, the signs are just right and it just looks fantastic driving through town up 19. And that's if you go up a little bit further north when you get towards, into Hernando, there's a strip of 19 that's just, they've done a beautiful job with it.
That's where all,
And-
that's where all the money is now.
But my point being is there's no reason.
Shopping is too.
But my point being is I think you're right. We could do that here if we wanted to and make it look about as nice as it can be. So,
Yeah, no, I seriously think we should look at both 19 and Ridge Road and kind of have a vision for those two. Again, Ridge Road is, we're an old city, so it's a mishmash of new nice stuff and some really old rundown places. And, that's the whole idea of blight is if you have a bunch of rundown places, it kind of invites more rundown places. So that's why we need to try to make certain areas better.
you go up down Leo Kid Road and have all kinds of improvement projects there too. So yeah, I could pick all kinds of roads around the city.
I'm not disagreeing with you there.
So
Most of them on the east side.
and I'm open to
On the
it.
east side.
And I'm open to it. So
Okay, well, let's move this thing along.
okay. So I think it's not a consensus, but I think the majority are probably going to be okay with the CRA budget at least for this year.
I'll vote against it, but you'll win.
But the least you can say is it's a balanced budget, which is the most important thing. So that having been said, I
Especially
think
from her
that
point of view, yeah.
um,
And Jim's.
Yeah, that's all.
As long as it balances, that's all.
so any other discussion?
Yeah.
That closes. It's just a budget presentation. There's nothing to vote on at this time. And I would presume when we do the budget, we'll gavel in and gavel back out.
For the CRA portion? Yeah, just for, to a principal like
What'll happen is, you did this last year?
No.
Okay.
She hasn't been through it.
Well, what's gonna happen is, there's certain state laws about the public, meetings for the, city budget and what's in your trim notice. And generally, people show up for that. And it's a little different for this, but we follow this. We did the CRA here follow the same process as the city, and so Rachel will bring us a resolution, and it'll be pretty much like this. These numbers exactly, unless you tell us something different. It'll be 2 readings. That's what the mayor's referring to.
Okay.
Buzz in, buzz out.
And those are-
Okay, because but you can always change it after the 2 readings and things like
And then
this.
again, those are the 2 hearings we have to have by state law.
Yes, we do it for the city. I don't know if we need to do it for
CRA.
for a special district, but we do it anyway. Yeah, we might. I think it's just 1 hearing.
I think 1 for CRA.
Yeah, but we do it the same way. So the second hearing is the final one, but
Yeah, we used to.
that's how it
We
happens.
used-
If that helps at all.
Thank- it does,
We
thank
used to, in the regular meetings, we used to approve, I think you finally said.
Yeah, it's not-
We basically, we voted on paying for Pasco, we voted on utility, we voted for every single budget, we voted separately on.
Right. We always have separate resolutions.
It was separate resolutions.
I'm gonna leave that up.
It was just-
However you did.
It was this litany of
Whatever you did
resolutions,
last
yeah.
But the only one that has to be different has to be CRA versus our regular city budget.
No, the water department has to be separate. That's a fund, right?
Because that's an enterprise fund.
It's enterprise fund, I believe, and, but you know what it is.
Okay. Okay. All right, any old business?
Yeah.
None?
No.
All right, looking for motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, what she said, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Don't lose that.